Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio. You know, every fourth Saturday, we get to chat with Glenn Burrows. He's been on our show for years and years. He's got great articles, and he runs and owns Norfolk Tours in England. And he is, he knows everything about family history. He takes people out on customized tours to research their family history and go to their sites of their ancestors. Then he takes people around on vacation spots they want to go to in England. So I encourage you to go to norfolk-tours.co.uk. It's always exciting to chat with Glenn, but today I think it's going to get a little silly. Well, why not? We're going to talk about the English language. What did they say in England? What, that same, term or wording, how is that said here in the States? But we're also going to talk about Canada. So we've got Lea-Brovedani, who's our trust expert on Big Blend Radio. She's on every third Thursday. She's known as the Trust Architect. You can keep up with her at the trustarchitect.biz. And since she's from Canada, we thought, let's do it. North America and England and the English language. So welcome back, Glenn. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, been a lovely week here in England. So that's all good stuff.
Awesome. You've been busy taking tours around, right?
I have, yeah. I've been going to places. I've been to Sandringham, which is where you're sitting at the moment. I've been there with some people, and we went on the Broads. We went to Blickling Hall. We went down into Suffolk to see where Benjamin Britten done a lot of his composing. Yeah, I've been all over the place.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all great stuff.
So you went on the Broads. I beg your pardon?
Yeah. Yeah, I went on the Norfolk Broads, and it's not young ladies, let me tell you that, right?
Might as well just get started.
The Norfolk Broads is a series of man-made lakes. And a broad is not a young lady, it's a man-made lake. So,
okay, that was number one. So Lee, welcome back. How are you doing?
Good. Are you abroad? Well, I've been called that at times, but now I realize that they're just saying that I'm a lake of happiness, I guess.
There we go. Ooh, there you go. Well, you've got a lake behind you, so that's Nova Scotia, right?
It is. That's close to where our land is that we're going to be moving back to. But it's in the bay. It was a foggy day that, well, I think it probably all burned off by lunchtime, but I love it when the fog rolls in and you just kind of see this mist over the water.
Wonderful. So you're going to be moving there. And Glenn, you've been there to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, we went to Nova Scotia. We toured all around the north coast of it because we went across from PEI across to Nova Scotia, then all the way around the northern coast. And then we stayed in Halifax because my several times great grandfather actually fought in the 1815 war. He was stationed in Nova Scotia. But he came back, obviously, or I wouldn't be here if he hadn't come back again. So I wanted to go to Nova Scotia and Halifax to see where he was. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting about the connection between England and Canada. I know, because there's a French connection too. I had to say the French connection. So Lee, on your family side, are you more on the French or the English side? Do you know?
Yes, both actually. So my grandfather was, on my dad's side, was British. My maiden name was Burkett, which is, as I think, as English as you can get. And then there's a, my grandmother, I think her mother was Irish. But then on my mom's side, there was German, Austrian, Hungary, and French. So from the Versailles area, and
nice.
So a bit of a mongrel, but all European mongrel.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of the same. We've got a family from the Isle of Man, from York, England, and then we do have French Canadians in our family.
And don't forget our witches.
Our witches. We've got the witches.
We found an exhibit on our family, on my grandfather's side, he was from the Isle of Man. And there was a whole exhibit in the Museum of the Occult.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, it was way cool. So apparently there were witches coming from my grandfather's side from the Isle of Man. So there you go. Don't mess
They
with
were
us.
burned
That's
at the
all I
stake.
have to say.
Burned at the
Yeah.
stake for talking to animals.
Yeah,
Interesting.
talking to animals.
And you're still doing it.
Yes, I know.
Apparently.
But now it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's wild how these family ties, and one day we'll find out, Glenn will go, all four of us are related.
You know.
You never know. You never know. And so it's exciting, but I think it's so fun to talk about the English language because people go over to England and somebody may say something. So I know this may get risque. So but I think people should actually know the terms and the slang because it's good for when you travel, and whether English people are going to Canada or to America, it's good to know too, because someone may say something to you and you may want to know what that is. When we were in
Or
South
why they're
Africa-
laughing at you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
When we were in South Africa, Nancy did with her artwork.
Uh-oh.
She was selling her paintings, traveling the country. It's never left our life, I suppose, and raising funds for the Cancer Association. And we're just kind of still fresh into South Africa and learning Afrikaans. And a guy told her, don't worry, just go out and say this saying and you'll be fine, to let people know that you're learning Afrikaans. So she did, and she stood up there and she says, oh, I just learned how to speak Afrikaans, and wat doen jou pisang and my vrugte sly. And what does that mean, Nancy?
What is your banana doing in my fruit salad?
So
There's no innuendo there.
Oh no,
Yes.
not at all. But the thing is, this was not just any guy. This was a guy who was part of one of the heads of the Tourism Bureau who told me to say it. So
he's no longer there.
Yeah, no, he's no longer there. But I wouldn't have thought that a person in that position, who was part of helping me put together the tour and part of helping me get good publicity, would tell me to say something like that. So I learned a lesson.
Well, there you go. That goes right to trust, Lee, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Well, I just think of a friend of mine who had gone over, and this is years ago, and this type of carpeting is coming back. And she said, oh, I'm so excited. We just got our new shag carpeting. And she was in England, and Glenn, you would know that would get a lot of titters, because
it would.
Titters.
Titters.
A bit of laughter. Although
see, now it's already started. If you're tittering,
shags and titters all in
laughing.
the same sentence.
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Shag is to have sex.
To copulate.
Yes. So if you have shag carpeting, so yeah,
That's-
we've already gone
That's what
down.
it's for.
I guess you like
Okay.
rugs.
All right. So we're going to have to go right to one of the most common ones, is the word Fanny.
Oh
So-
boy.
And I, in South Africa, we're more on the British side. So a fanny is different than what a fanny is in this country.
Exactly.
And so when we got here, people are like wearing fanny pack. And you know what? Stop wearing fanny packs
packs.
anyway.
Yeah.
You were calling them bum bags, Glenn?
Yes. Yeah, we call them bum bags. Because for us, the backside is called the bum.
Mhm.
Mhm.
A bum is not someone who lives on the street in England. A person who lives on the street in England is called a tramp,
Oh,
because they tramp. They tramp around a lot, so they're a tramp. But we also know what a bum is because of American films. But even so, the backside is called the bum, or the behind. So when we had these bags that you put around your waist, they were called bum bags because you can carry them so that they're over your bottom. You see?
see now a bottom here is a fanny, but in England a fanny is the female part.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, I had a lady, a very respectable lady.
It's hard
Come
to sit on
over.
your fanny.
Well,
Sorry.
she came over and she said, "Oh, she said my passport is in my fanny pack."
Uh-oh.
And I must have looked totally shocked. And then I sort of realized that she didn't mean that she carried it in the front of her stomach. She carried it like a bum bag, the same as we do. And oh, so frightening.
That's
So
why
now in South Africa, they called mini skirts fanny pelmets.
Right.
Mm.
In Canadian, it's, like we say bum as well, or arse.
Yes.
Arse.
Well, that's a bit more basic. Arse isn't what you would say in front of
No,
your
and it's a
granny.
little cruder too. I was
Yeah,
always taught
yeah.
it was cruder. You wouldn't say that.
No, not you wouldn't say it to your granny.
Gosh, no.
there's some other words that we'll try not to bring up as
Yeah.
well. But
Yeah.
Nancy got onto like a whole thing of this last night, and we had the giggles all night going through these words, and then we're like, we better not say half of these, but you're so
No.
tempted to.
Please
But
don't.
Glenn, I want to go to the World War II booklet for the
Yes.
soldiers that you found, and everyone, Glenn's got an article up on blendradioandtv.com with a link to this, because you can see it online. It's really quite interesting
Oh, it's
about the
fantastic.
training for American soldiers coming over. The British are strong. The British are
Yes.
good people, sis.
But the interesting thing was that even during World War II, well, I suppose even more so then than it is now, they had to warn these young men from America about what the British were like and how we lived and the words we used, and also how we conducted ourselves, because especially during the war, we were still very, very staid, very upright, very British, and they had to realize that, you don't just lean on the bar and have your pint. You have to order your pint nicely like a gentleman, and you don't just go up to a young lady and do what you like. You have to be gentlemanly, and that was something that they had to sort of tell them about, and they had to tell them about the money as well, because I mean, British money during the war was very complicated, because there were 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound, so it was very complicated. But they had to just tell them what we do. I mean, when we finish our meal, we put our knife and our fork beside each other in a straight line like that. The Americans leave theirs on their plate like that. And if you want to be polite, you put your cutlery like that. Silly things like that, just to give them an idea about what we do over here. And even
my grandfather fought in the First World War for England.
Right.
He fought in the Second World War for the Canadian Army. So, it's kind of interesting. And I think my brother has all of his medals from both.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. To be on both sides. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, because, everybody was pretty united over those two wars, of kicking down the bad guys. And it's interesting when you think about soldiers going overseas, having to learn, and then through the years how things shift, on travelers going over in like the bum bags and the fanny packs is a really good example of not knowing what people are talking about.
Exactly.
But going to England when we went there, so Kenya has very British, but we were also learning a bunch of other languages and cultures. But going to school, I got in trouble in school because the teacher was doing a spelling thing, and she says meself, and I wrote MESELF, and she marked it wrong.
Yeah,
you're supposed to put a Y, and I said, but you said me. And Nancy actually had to go to the principal's office and fight this.
I know she can't spell, so I end up in the principal's office.
But she, meself, and she goes, but it's myself, but it's meself. So it was like, what?
I know the teacher and I had, the teacher and I had an argument about it, because I said, well, you need to say it right. And she says, well, the word is meself. I'm like, then why is it spelled with a Y? Why don't you spell it with an E over here then? And she goes, no, it's spelled with a Y. And I said, why don't you say myself? And then she says, okay, well, that's how we do it here. I said, well, how do you say my? What's that word? She goes, my. Makes no sense. You realize that, right?
Ooh, ugly
And
American.
so then I had to go to the principal's office.
She was
But
awfully
then again, even the same words are spelt differently. I mean, in America, you don't have U's in your words,
Yeah.
color
Right.
and all of that, you don't, and to spell center, you have the R the wrong way round.
Yeah.
I
And
agree with you, Glenn. That's how I was raised. And I always thought it was just laziness
And
to
there's
drop
also
those extra consonants or letters. So
Yeah.
color was
But also-
always COLOUR.
Yeah.
And then
but
what
I mean,
about
also-
the double L's? Like some words have two L's in our English. They only get one, like installment and words like that.
What?
And traveling.
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 yeah.
There's well, it's
2 L's.
interesting because when you both write articles for Big Blend, and I was raised on your English, and so now I had to deprogram that. And then when your articles come in, and even the syntax, I start getting all swirly, and Nancy has to handle it because I'm like, no, this is right, and then it's like, well, this is American. The spell checks don't know what to do. The grammar
No.
police don't know what to do,
No.
and I just go, this is how they talk. Get over it. This
Yeah.
is how it is. So it's because then I'll start writing like you both of you because of that, because of I used to do the OUR all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But
now-
even in Canada, tire is spelt with an I, but in England it's spelt with a Y. Tire of a car.
EYRE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
my cousin in Toronto, he actually has he runs one of the Canadian tire stores in Toronto, and we went and had a look at it, and I said to him, I said, you spelt tire wrong, and we had a good joke about it, but it's silly little things like that where we spell words differently, and the words that we use, I mean, for instance, like in the article, we're talking about children with their nappies in England, but you have
Nappies.
diapers,
Yes.
and silly things like and spring onions in England, scallions in America,
Isn't it weird?
or
Yeah.
green onions, or
Mm.
sometimes that's
That's
chives. Then what's a
Chives are
chive?
Chive is-
Yeah, we have chives.
We
Yeah,
have
Chives are little.
yeah.
They're little. Yeah, they're little. But that's weird. Like I didn't. Well, yeah, zucchini here, and you have courgettes.
yeah, we have
Courgette.
courgette. Yeah, which I suppose is French.
It's French. Yeah. That
Yeah,
would
and
be
then
French.
napkins versus serviettes.
Yeah,
La-di-da.
they're interchangeable. It's some words which are now, because we are so Americanized because of the television, a lot of
Yeah.
words are interchangeable. But when I was little, they were always napkins.
Mm.
I suppose with the continent as well, we're bringing in a lot of French words, but I find it quite funny to think that you have pacifiers in America, but we have dummies.
Yeah.
That's
Are we
funny.
going? Are we going back to politics?
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
Dummies.
that as well.
Yeah,
And
really.
Yeah.
Your sidewalk, we have a pavement, but you see, pavement
Mm.
is a Romanized word,
Huh.
because they called them pavements. Well, they probably called them something different in Latin,
Mm.
but a Roman sidewalk is a pavement, and we call our sidewalks pavements. Yeah.
Over
Mm.
here,
them.
especially if you're in the West. So when you think about the development of the West, so all the mining towns and people going out west and the tent cities, they were all these wooden plank kind of sidewalks. So I don't think they could have called it pavement because they were wooden, like
Yeah.
Julia and
Those
Nancy,
are
there's a
called
lot of those.
boardwalks.
Yeah, those are boardwalks.
No,
Yeah,
but those
I
are
always call
boardwalks
them
over water.
boardwalks.
No, like it's a wooden plank. Like there's a boardwalk goes over water or a
Not
marsh.
always. Not always.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't
well.
think so. I just thought boardwalk was,
Made
well,
out
I
of
would
wood.
call it a sidewalk made of wood.
Oh, I see. I
boardwalk.
boardwalk to me is a boardwalk empire. Now it's like going on a pier as well, like a
Mhm.
And I would
So
just
what
call
it-
that a pier.
Yeah.
We don't have wooden
how do we
sidewalks.
all get along?
I don't know.
How did we understand each other?
Well, it does make you wonder. It's a different
oh,
language.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because when we travel, if you're asking for, in Canada, we'd say, can I get the bill, please? And here you say the check. And
Yeah.
now we don't do either. We just do this.
Yeah. Or check, and check with you is
Mhm.
QUE, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Check. Is that same in Canada?
There's so much because, I mean, we share this huge border with America. A lot of the words are very Americanized now. So I've seen them both, but now it's more common to see check spelled with a, CK.
Oh, okay.
QUE.
And you lived in India, and
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's kind of because of the colonialism and everything. Was the English over there more British for you, or was it very similar to being in Canada?
It was more British,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
It felt,
Kenya
I
was
mean,
like that.
Kenya was like that. South Africa was
Eh,
because the British and the Dutch fought all the time about everything. It would depend on where you were in the country as to what word you would use.
hmm.
yeah. And like there's, you got used to switching the words very quickly. So is it
Mhm.
washroom, bathroom, or toilet? And I found that everywhere people understand toilet.
Yes.
Mm.
And a lot of times if I'd say, can you tell me where your washroom is? I'd get a, what?
See, that's like laundry.
A laundry.
For me, that makes me
That's
think
a laundry.
Yeah.
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 So that's
So what if my grandmother used to say about certain people, she'd say, stay away from him or whoever it is, stay away from them, they're barmy.
Well,
But
see,
do
if
you-
I heard that, I think that they were a little,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so do you have that in Canada, that word, barmy?
I'm very familiar with it. I probably don't use it in a sentence very often. But yeah, I would know exactly what that meant. If someone said, oh, they're barmy, I think, oh, they're a little wacko, huh?
Mhm.
oh wait,
Yeah,
no,
Well,
that
out there.
no, the mental. See that in this country,
Mental.
if you say someone's mental, they're gonna they're positively mental. It's mental. Then now I don't know if you could get away with that because it's like
Yeah, I
because
think
now
that would-
it's you know what I mean? Now it's
Mhm.
not politically correct to say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't think
there are so
America's ever
many.
said that.
There are
Yeah.
so many words now that are getting unacceptable
Mhm.
that
Exactly,
it is really difficult to know what you're allowed to say. and
I
what
know you're not allowed to say
It's true.
cockpit. It's not cockpit on an airplane anymore.
Oh, what is it?
It's a flight deck.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go to the flight deck.
All right.
And
Okay.
it's
See, but that doesn't really make sense. I mean, a flight deck sounds to me like, and
it sounds like a
you're
bar.
landing a plane on one of those aircraft
Yeah.
carriers.
Yeah. Well, no, a flight deck to me makes me wonder whether they're gone outside. If they're
Yeah,
standing on the top of
exactly.
the airplane.
The pilots outside out there.
But and then like
Yeah.
air stewardess, flight attendant,
Oh yeah.
waitress
Mhm.
is now server. I don't get
Yeah.
it. I don't.
I think server sounds worse than waitress.
And in South Africa, if you had a maid, now it's a domestic.
Right.
So
Well,
I
that
don't. What?
that goes back to domestic servants, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I
is,
suppose.
A domestic is, for me, a domestic sounds even more servile than having a maid.
Ooh, I like that word,
Exactly.
servile.
I think
Right.
You're
so
being
too.
servile.
Yeah. Because I
don't wanna
mean,
be
my
servile.
grandmother was a domestic. She
Hmm.
was a domestic servant, She was in service, as they used to say years ago. And they're the lowest of the low, domestic servants in her day. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's really strange. Words are strange because it's so funny how words change their meaning and either become acceptable or unacceptable
Mhm.
in a relatively short time.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
oh,
Words that I would have used as a child are now taboo. You know, if I said some of the words that I grew up with in front of my children, they would definitely say to me, "You aren't allowed to say that, Dad." And I have to speak to my mother sometimes, because my mother still uses words that she definitely can't use, you know. And I don't mean
funny.
swear words. I'm
Yeah.
talking about normal words, but in the wrong way. Oh dear.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then you have to correct your mother, and it's like,
Oh,
that's
I
your
do.
mother. That's it. It's interesting. Well, I try to do that with Nancy, and I don't get very far.
No, neither
No.
do I.
You know, but you know, there's like you say bloke,
Yes.
and over here to us, it's like dude. And I know that's like the old 60s kind of, you know,
Surfer dude.
yeah,
Surfer
you know, and I
dude.
haven't, it's never left. You know, this
Yeah, I
chap.
mean, no, in
you know?
England, you know, a bloke is a mate. You know.
Yeah, I would say a bloke is a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, a mate. See, over here, you don't say mate,
No.
you know, then people think right back to copulation again, you know. Okay, so let's talk about kissing. So
Right.
I remember when we got to England,
Snogging.
snogging was the
Oh, yeah.
word.
Snogging. You don't use that word anymore.
What do you use?
I don't know.
What do you,
I've been,
what about,
I've been married for 39 years, Lisa.
well, that doesn't mean you
Well,
don't
then-
snog.
Snog.
You don't talk about it, though, do you?
Yeah, they say.
Well, okay, but
We
when I
had
was
us
in
a
high
good
school-
old snog.
Yeah, I know, but this is the worst. When I was in high school in South Africa,
Oh, gosh.
it was
Snogging.
pulling in. What was that?
Pulling in.
Pulling in. So I don't know if that had to do with the tongue doing
That's
something. I don't
probably
know
more
who created.
Dutch.
You know, it's
That's
like
gonna-
who's. Oh, did you guys pull in? Like
That's gonna be Dutch.
I don't know where that.
The
came
Dutch
from.
have some pretty interesting words. They really do. A
Pulling
lot of
in.
them-
I'm
Yeah,
sure they do.
they do.
What
They
would-
have a lot of
what-
interesting words.
What I've got to go to you, Lee. What's snogging in Canada?
I'm kind of with Glenn. I've been married for. I'm trying
Normal
to think.
snogging for you guys.
Well,
huh?
you know, we used to say making out, like if
Yeah.
Making out, right?
you know,
No,
like
that's
you'd
not-
say,
That's American.
did you but we used it up in Canada too. Did you make out
Yeah.
last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, making out.
know-
But snog
You know,
pulling in
Never
is a
heard
little
the-
odd.
Never heard
Pulling
snogging,
in.
never heard
Really?
the other.
What
yeah.
about bullocks? Are we allowed to say bullocks?
Yeah, well, that's one of the,
There's
but
bollocks.
I was
Bullocks.
going to say a bullock is a male cow,
yeah.
A bullock. It's
A- but a bollock is a completely different thing and is not something that I would say on the radio or television in England.
oh,
we-
see,
Really?
really.
See that over here, I think we're a little looser about things, but
All
then all the English
British
people I know say
they-
things that you don't
Yeah.
walk around saying here.
Yeah.
There are certain words that, you know, you just, you
But
don't say.
the British comedies say that word all the
Like,
time.
just watch Ricky Gervais, and then Jim
Yeah.
Jeffries from
Yeah, yeah,
Australia.
yeah.
He
I mean-
says the one thing all the
Mm.
time.
Some
And if anyone's going to say it,
program-
he does it.
I must say that the English television now uses language that I don't use. You know,
Oh.
I find that television has got really low standards at the moment for the
Yeah.
language it uses, and I wouldn't use a lot of words I hear on the television, and I definitely would not use the word bollocks in front of my parents. I
Oh,
wouldn't
wow.
I wouldn't use them words anyway. You know, it's
Nancy,
not-
you're going to get a good spanking, or would it be
Well,
a hiding?
but, I mean, if I see it on a British comedy and I went to England, I would think that it would be okay to say it.
no,
No.
not in mixed
Wow.
company. So could you
Wow.
please
Nancy.
could you bleep that out, please? So
Okay,
my
bleep it.
my mum doesn't hear me saying it.
Oh
Okay.
dear, you're beeped out. Beeped out. He's been
That's
beeped over the
funny.
bollocks.
That's
To say-
funny.
I had to
Wow.
say that. But okay, but now we would say spanking, and England and South Africa was hiding.
Yes.
If you got a good hiding, I mean, now it's illegal to give your kids a good hiding.
Yeah. I mean, spanking is going back to the other subject that you've been talking about, where people pay for different things.
Really?
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh, are we
Oh.
doing 50 Shades of Grey?
Sort of, sort
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean,
wow. So you don't give your kids a spanking then, really?
well,
You
yeah, I
don't.
mean, it is a word that has been used in the past, but it wouldn't, if I said that I was going to give someone a spanking, they would definitely think I'd gone a bit on the iffy side.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he went
See,
to
my parents used
Amsterdam.
to use that all the time.
Yeah,
My
it's another
parents use it,
word. It's
yeah.
another word that's got another connotation to it.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
is now used in a different way. I think this program had better go out after 9 o'clock at night, really.
I guess it is. Well, in England, it's going out at midnight, so that's
That's
okay.
fine. Fine.
That's
My
good.
mum won't be up to listen to it.
Yeah, don't tell it. Lee, what's a spanking for you?
well.
Oh,
it was
that
the
sounded
same.
bad too.
No, the spanking meant that you got in trouble with your parents and they gave you a
Yeah.
spanking. It was usually open hand on the bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bum,
That's a
the butt.
spanking.
See, we say the butt.
But like some of the derogatory words that you use in Canada are things like, well, not really. If you were going to go get drunk, you were going on a bender. I don't know, Glenn,
Oh.
what would you say? If
I've
we
heard
said,
that
wow,
before.
everybody, like I saw you last night, it looked like you were really going on a bender. It meant they got very drunk.
Now, in England, if I saw someone who was really drunk, I would say that they were pissed.
Yes.
We would use that
but-
term as well.
But that's a little bit basic to say that. So you would
Well,
say you were drunk, but pissed in America means you're angry.
Right.
Yes.
But
See,
in
like,
England,
yeah.
it means you're drunk.
Right, because we call people like in South Africa, a drunk, like a person who's a drunk is a piss cat.
Right.
Ah,
And here it could be you're pissed, you're angry, or you're going potty.
But I have to say, the way I was brought up in this country, my parents would never let me say that word. That
No.
was completely, no, you don't talk that way. That was it.
No.
So
It's
what?
not,
Okay, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not really a word that you'd used again in polite company. You wouldn't say someone was pissed in polite company. You'd say that, to your mate or something.
Tipsy.
You would generally say that they were drunk. We often say that they were as drunk as a lord. Or if you're going to say pissed, you would say they were as pissed as a newt.
A newt.
A newt, one of those little
yeah.
lizard
Those little
things.
lizard
Yeah.
Because
things.
our eyes
Yeah.
are closed. Two sheets to the wind.
Yeah, say that. But you see, a lot of words again, they're now becoming acceptable, whereas a few years ago they wouldn't have been acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, that's
So-
really true.
So is a trollop someone that would give a spanking?
Yes.
Oh dear. Oh,
Oh, boy.
I thought. Well, I mean, what else do you call them? I mean,
In
no.
polite company, a
Prostitute.
lady of the night.
Oh.
Okay.
Or you'd
Okay.
say hooker. I mean, that was one
Hooker.
of the other.
No, we don't have them.
No.
No, we
There's
don't.
no
we don't-
hookers in England.
No
We don't,
hookers.
we don't have no hooker is someone who plays rugby, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and
Okay. Yeah. Now football. That's a good one
Uh-oh.
over here. There's soccer and football, and so it's confusing. It's like you're going to go watch
Yeah.
football in England. You're going to see a soccer game, and if you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
it's a little different over here.
Yeah,
I've
we
always
don't-
called it,
we don't
soccer.
we don't play American football in England.
No.
We're
They
not-
play rugby.
yeah, we play
Oh, That's
rugby.
harsh.
Yeah, because I have heard it said that people who play American football are just too scared to play rugby without all the padding.
That's what
Mhm.
my husband says.
Yeah.
Well, you guys
I've
have
heard
the
that
ice
before.
hockey.
Yeah.
guys have
I've heard
hockey,
that
and
before.
when you have hockey, it's automatically ice hockey. Do you do field hockey at all?
We do
have
field hockey,
yeah.
but if you say that they play hockey in Canada, you're usually talking about ice hockey. And if you hear a Canadian say the person was a real hoser, it usually refers to someone who's a loser, losers of hockey games, you know, and or someone that, you know, if you'll say, oh, they're such a hoser, it stands for loser. So
Oh, we've heard that term a lot on our show, our Pitter Patter Skedatter show, Letterkenny. They say hoser all the time, and I'm like, okay, that to me is just they're a washout. They're like a waste.
yeah,
That's kind of what I thought.
In Canada, it would be kind of a loser.
All right.
Oh,
If you're a hoser in England, it just means you're probably watering the garden with a garden hose.
Okay.
oh, there it is. So okay, so
Well, that's
and
funny.
it is different, and then even so, clothes are different a lot of times. You know, just even if you're needing to do something, if you're overseas, and just even, oh, this is something we need to clear up.
Go on, then.
Tea is a very confusing thing in England.
Oh, it
Because
is.
you have tea, high tea, and I remember tea
Supper.
at midnight, kind of 11 o'clock. It was like way past the adults. If they had watched TV late or something, they would have another tea kind of thing. So what are the stages of tea, and which one is high?
If you have you have a cup of tea, obviously you can have a cup of tea anytime you like. Tea in Norfolk, we have tea, which is our evening meal. We don't have dinner. We have, well, we do, but we have dinner at dinner time, which is lunchtime. And then we have tea at night time, which is dinner time for a lot of people. But
So
we
do you
can
use
have,
the term supper?
no. Well,
Oh,
you do.
okay.
If you want to have supper, you'd have that at 9 o'clock at night, but we don't normally have
Okay,
supper.
that's what I was talking about. It said that final one.
Supper.
Well,
So-
yeah, but that's just a snack. That's a piece of cheese or something. That would be supper. But if you have afternoon tea, that would be the sandwiches, the cheese scones, and the fruit scones, and the cakes and the fancies and all that sort of stuff.
Is that the high tea? Because there's a
Yeah,
lot
that
of.
would be your afternoon tea at 4 o'clock.
Oh, not at
But-
high noon.
No, not high
How
noon.
is-
No, noon. Noon is, if you're posh, that's lunchtime. If you come from Norfolk, that's dinner time.
Wow.
Okay.
So what's breakfast? You have breakfast is breakfast.
Yeah, breakfast is breakfast. You can also have 11s at 11. And if you're working on a farm, you would have 4s at 4 o'clock, which would be a cup of coffee and a sandwich or something. That's 4s.
Wow.
Foursies. Sounds like foursies, which
What
is a
and now what
totally
about
different thing
Canada?
over here.
I mean, are you doing the fancy teas and everything in Canada, or more
Depends, you know,
American?
if you go to Victoria in British Columbia, I think it's one of the last vestiges of the royal, you know, like they have high teas, and you hear, I think, proper English there, because it was an island, and it was really the most English of all of the provinces, the most English city in all of Canada. So you would definitely, if you went to Victoria, British Columbia, you would probably, Glenn, you'd feel like you were back in England.
Are you talking about Victoria on Vancouver Island?
Yes.
Yeah, we went there and it was gorgeous. I loved it. And the thing
cool.
I loved about Victoria is they had a statue of Vancouver on top of the town hall, and I loved that. Because
So you must have
Vancouver-
felt at home, because it feels, whenever I go there,
Yeah.
it feels, you know,
Yeah.
I always think of my grandparents who were very English.
Oh, they had lovely sort of colonial, lovely buildings. They were really beautiful buildings. And in case you don't realize, Captain Vancouver was actually born in King's Lynn, the same place as I was, which is
Oh,
in
cool.
Norfolk.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased to see a statue of him on top of the town hall.
Cool.
Gorgeous
It's
place.
interesting. Whenever we do these connections with Glenn, we'll find a statue here, and he'll go, "Well, here's our statue." You know what I mean? I mean, connecting Abraham Lincoln back to, you know, where you are was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just
right.
all that history is so rich, you know.
Well, actually, let me just talk about Abraham Lincoln. The picture behind me is actually Hingham. which
Oh,
is where
okay.
Abraham Lincoln's ancestors emigrated to America from. So
Oh, wow.
this is Hingham.
Oh,
Wow.
He's got a phone booth. We don't have those
Yeah.
anymore.
No,
Oh.
we don't either.
Oh,
A lot of them are now listed, so they're kept. And actually,
Mm.
something that you'd appreciate is
Excuse
a
me.
lot of them now have been turned into mini give and take libraries. So they
Oh,
put
I love that.
little shelves in them, and
Oh,
people
fun.
drop off books and people borrow books. So that's a give and
Oh.
take
Cool.
library. So
Now
that's
we
a-
have
that's
those,
cool. I like
but
that.
we don't
Yeah.
have them in the, in telephone boxes or telephone
Yeah.
booths.
Booths, yeah,
You say boxes or booths?
booths,
box.
a box, telephone box.
Okay. This is
When I was in
confusing.
British Columbia last month, they had exactly that. They had lending libraries and they were in old telephone booths.
All right, good idea.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Oh,
You have them in neighborhoods and they're normally just like a little, almost like a bird box, like a big
Yeah.
Yeah,
bird
yeah.
box.
mm,
They
With a
have
little
those in
window
front
and
of
books.
everybody's houses here, but
It's so nice. I think it's a good,
Mm.
I think the more people do that in
That's
neighborhoods
cool.
across the, around the world, and if we can grow fruits and vegetables at the front of our yards, that would help people.
yes,
Honestly,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. So, okay, well, I have to bring this up, Glenn.
Uh-oh.
Spotted Dick. I can't
No,
leave it.
no.
I can't
Here we
leave it
go.
because,
Poor blimey.
if I don't, because people are asked it's in the back of their heads, and spotted dick is not what you think it is. You don't get it at, you don't have to go to the hospital. But I
Oh
did
my
hear
gosh.
something about
Yes.
a gentleman named Dick, and apparently he was a very big gregarious character, and he would tell people, "My name is Richard Maximus." But anyway, so and for some reason, I don't know, but anyway, I thought of that. But spotted dick is a pudding, but how
Yes.
did it get its name? Why would
Well-
they call a spongy cake thing
I think
Richard?
it's because it's got,
Richard, I feel like Hyacinth.
I
would say
think
now.
it has things in it. So it's got,
Yeah, it has dried
spots.
fruit, like
Yes, it's got spots in it.
raisins and sultanas. But why it got the dick part, I don't know. But
Wow.
that can be your homework for the weekend. But you have to be very careful if you're searching. If you're searching on the internet, you have
Yeah.
to be careful.
If
Yeah.
anybody, if I ever committed a crime or any kind of anything, the FBI got hold of my Google,
Exactly.
oh,
history.
yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
in trouble. And all the writers that we interview, crime writers, they all said if anybody looked at my crime research history on a computer,
Mm-mm.
it
would
would
think
be,
you're-
they would
yeah.
think you're either trying to kill yourself or murder someone or poison
Mhm.
somebody,
Yeah.
But you have people that actually send it when they come over. They send spotted dick back home.
Well, no, I had one group who actually asked me to go and get them 6 tins from the super, because you can buy it in a tin. You boil it in a tin if you want to, or you can make it. Diane makes steamed sponge pudding, and that's basically what it's a steamed sponge. And
Like fruit cake.
No, it's a steamed sponge, not a cake. Dear Nancy. So you can buy it in a tin, and these American visitors actually asked me to go and buy half a dozen because they were going to wrap it up and give it to people for Christmas because they thought it was so funny.
It is funny.
So here's the whole wonder of being able to be on the show, but also check to see why it was called that. And so the
good.
spotted,
So
of
your
course,
Google history is going to get
Yeah.
get nailed.
is going to, it's because of all of the, exactly as you said, Glenn, it's all of the currents and everything. So that's the spotted.
Yeah.
And the dick is believed to derive from the word dough.
All right. Okay.
So
I'm gonna
spotted
go-
dick was just currants and all of the all of the different fruit that was in it.
Yeah.
That was the spotted, and the dick was from the word dough.
I
So there
just
you
have
go.
a
me.
funny thought.
Don't.
Well, let's say
do
you were
not.
going to make some bread and we would then wait for it to rise.
I wonder if you use
You
self-rising
see what
flour.
I mean?
I'm just saying. Now, would you make this, Lee? Would you do this? Because you bake, and I mean,
I do.
whenever
but,
you
know,
put
it's
things
very
on
similar.
Facebook, I'm like, wow.
It's very similar to a Christmas pudding that I'd make. So it's a steamed suet pudding, and you actually make it. And when I've made it, when I looked at the recipe, I thought, well, that's just very similar to the Christmas pudding that I would make.
No, no,
with suet.
The spotted dick that we have in England is a steamed sponge. So you make a sponge mixture like a Victoria sponge, but instead of putting it in the oven, you put it in a basin with a cloth over it and you steam it.
Yeah, so I'll have to make it, and then I'll tell you.
Oh, we want to watch on Facebook now. We've got to do the experiment.
Custard.
My grandmother used to make, but it was dark. The dough was like chocolate dark, and it had nuts and berries and stuff in it.
That's a fruitcake.
Yeah, that would be more of a Christmas pudding. So this does sound different. So if it's a sponge and you steam it, then it sounds delicious.
It is. Diane loves it. You can also make a plain one, and you just put a little bit of treacle in the bottom of your dish.
Ooh.
And then when it's finished, you turn it out, and all the treacle runs all over the sponge.
Do they say treacle over here, or is it?
I think
that's
is it like a molasses? Is treacle molasses?
Well, it's kind of a different letter. And
golden syrup.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. And now, caramel or caramel? What is the difference, or is it the same thing?
Same thing.
I don't know. We say caramel.
Yeah.
I don't know what they say here. Caramel, because sometimes people just not put the extra A in it, and I'm confused because like I give up because I've always said
it's just different accents.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Caramel and caramel. It's just even in this country, part of the country says caramel and the other says caramel. The further west you go, the longer the A's get.
When we got to this country, they would say, "Oh, we're going to put whipped cream on it," and I always thought it would be, you whip it, you whip the cream like whipping cream, but then it came out of a can, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" So do you do that in England? Because I don't remember that.
A lot of restaurants now use that as a shortcut because they're not whipping cream, so they just use the squirty cream, as we call it. But then you're talking about Mr. Whippy again, aren't you?
Oh,
I had to go there, Mr. Whippy. Mr. Whippy and Spotted Dick were friends. It's Mr. Whippy is not into spanking either. Mr. Whippy is an ice cream, a soft serve ice cream, and then if it's the 99er, it's got the flake in it in the middle. It is magic.
It's delicious.
Have you had one, Lee?
Sorry,
have you had a Mr. Whippy? It's a soft serve ice cream with a chocolate flake.
It's like our softy serves over here.
Okay, I'm sure I have, but I probably didn't call it that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't. I was wondering
if you've got a soft serve and you dip it in chocolate, we just call it a dipped cone.
Well, the chocolate that you get in a Mr. Whippy 99 is like a flake. It's a long
thin
stick of chocolate.
It looks like
it's good.
Okay, that sounds really good. I'm kind of hungry now.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
We're talking about all of these wonderful desserts and then
what
ice
do they
cream
call that cookie?
What?
It's what like in this country, I think
there's no cookie. It's chocolate, but it's like it's
got like little flakes on top of it. It looks like little cereal flakes on it.
Well, it's just a stick, which instead of being a solid piece of chocolate, it's all really little flaky pieces of chocolate. So it's very light and crumbly.
It's delicious. Good. And when the ice cream goes around it, it kind of gets it a little harder and colder. It's like it's almost frozen, and it's just this whole other texture. And man, and
want to go out and buy Mr. Whippy now. When I can tell.
I know. I haven't had a Mr. Whippy in over 30 years.
Oh, well, I would offer to send you one, but it'd be melted by the time
get here.
One of my best friends from high school in South Africa lives in England, and she's coming to America not like Eddie Murphy, but
I
she's
was gonna
coming here.
say.
And she's coming here in August. Where I'm going to see her, and she's like, "Can I bring you anything?" And I'm like, Marmite. Marmite. You know? It's like the Marmite, and Nancy gets crunchy bars.
Oh,
That's
right.
a thing, you know, because
Mhm.
there's certain things you really do miss. But
Yeah.
you know, so I want to go. Do you have Vegemite in Canada? Do they do that, or do you do that? I should say.
They do have it. There's, you know, in Halifax, there's a greengrocer he was British, and so he had a whole section that was all of the British things, like everything that people miss. So it had things like Marmite and Vegemite and a lot of the chocolate bars that you can only get in England and
Crunchies.
yeah, absolutely. So yes, you can
Yummy.
get them, but it depends because there's such a large, Canada is so closely tied to England that there's little pockets where you can always find British treats.
See,
Oh,
like
that's
another
cool.
one is
And crisps.
M&Ms over here.
Crisps.
Over in England, they're Smarties.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in Canada, they're called Smarties.
Yeah.
And you know, I would tell Nancy growing up, every time I eat
Oh.
a Smartie, I get, you know, smarter.
She thought
And
they
so
were
you-
vitamins.
Well, actually, when I was in England, I did
Mhm. Yes.
sell our vitamins to the kids because they looked like Smarties, and told them they were Smarties. And then I had to go to the principal's office. Then I got into big trouble, and I was drug dealing at an early age. I was like, they're just vitamins. But I thought it was funny because all the kids would go, ew, you know. And I got into big trouble and had to write letters of apology to
Mhm.
not only the kids, but to the teachers and to the parents. I mean, it was like this big ordeal for selling
That's right.
vitamins. Isn't it vitamins, not vitamins?
Vitamins, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
She
In
was very
Canada, it's
creative.
vitamins or vitamins?
Vitamins. So, you know, a lot of the pronunciations in Canada,
That's
because
American.
like I said, we were brought up on American
Yeah.
television. So
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? Television now
Mm.
does bring
Yes.
in a lot of Americanisms. I mean, I know that at nurseries, they often say that they can tell what children sit in front of the television all day simply because of the words they use, because
Wow.
they talk like the, you know, Sesame Street things,
Right.
you know, things like
Well,
that. You know?
you said nursery, and
Yes.
to us, that's where you go to buy plants.
Well, it is here as well, but my granddaughters go to nursery.
yeah, and the same thing, Glenn, it's used for, you go to the nursery for plants, but your children also go to nursery school.
Yes, yeah.
And keep them there. No, I'm just kidding.
It's nice.
So
to
what?
know.
Okay, what about Postman Pat? Do you
What
still
about
have
about
him?
him?
He's brilliant. He's absolutely
He's still on
brilliant. He's
TV?
absolutely useless postman, but he's a very good TV program.
We like him. Okay, now what about, you've got bangers and mash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you be careful about saying anything about banging over here, because that's a leg over.
that as well in England, but you know,
Oh, okay.
bangers and mash is just what it is, you know, sausage and mashed potato.
Yeah,
Did-
and if I was in Canada, and there's quite a few places that I could go and say bangers and mash, and they'd know what I meant.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So, because you have the fish and chips too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we have French fries, but they're
And they-
different.
And they have
They are
poutine.
different.
They have poutine as well in Canada, which I thought was
Poutine.
very
Poutine.
different.
Yeah.
Poutine.
Poutine.
Oh, well, I
Poutine,
call
yeah.
it poutine.
It's delicious.
Poutine.
French
I thought it
Canadian
was
treat. And butter
very
tarts and Nanaimo squares and
You said
Peter
tart.
tails. What's
What?
that?
Yeah, tart.
Oh dear, oh dear.
We're
oh
going
dear.
right back to trollops. What is a gaffer?
A gaffer is someone who's in charge of a group of workmen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
There's the same
I've
thing
heard
in
the
music.
word-
There's a gaffer. There's gaffers in music that run around like roadies.
Yeah, that would be about right. It's someone who's in charge of a group of
Oh.
workmen.
Yeah.
because I've heard
I
that
don't
a
like
lot.
the
And then
word.
when we lived in
Sounds
England,
weird.
I heard people say
Uh-oh.
core blimey.
Yeah.
So I
Hecky
understood.
thump.
Yeah, I get the blimey part. What's the core? Because that would be that word they put a lot of emphasis on. Like
Yeah, but you
core.
see what it is, what it actually means is God blind me. That's what
Oh.
core blimey is.
Oh,
It's not core, it's gourd, which is
Oh.
God. Gourd is
Oh.
how they pronounced it.
oh,
Well,
So
isn't this
God-
nice to
God
record on a
blind me.
Sunday?
well,
Yeah, no, terrible.
wow, sorry.
Don't ever let your mother hear this. Well, but then who started the big oi?
Oi,
know,
I don't know.
Oi.
I think that's probably a Cockney
It's like,
thing.
hey.
I think that's a Cockney thing from London.
It's
Okay.
like everybody will say, Canadians say a.
Yeah.
And it is very,
Mhm.
it's a
Mm.
certain part of the country. So if you're in Ontario, you'll hear it a lot more often. I mean,
Yes.
you will hear it across Canada, but it's like saying, yeah, it's like saying oi. It's just not something that I would say.
No.
We say oi all the time. It
I
just
know.
is oi.
Oi.
Like
Yeah,
when people
oi, and
say,
then-
that's how you tell someone's Canadian, because they'll say a after everything.
Yeah.
See,
And
Mhm.
it's just
South Africa, we did hey, but not like here. So if you go oi to someone, you're trying to get their attention.
Yeah.
Here you'll go hey. In South Africa, it's kind of like the A in Canada, because you'll say,
A at the end of a
I really
sentence.
liked your dress, eh?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
hey. In other words, it's like, did you hear me?
yeah.
It's like a, acknowledged thing.
The oi thing, after my dad died, my mom married a man from the Channel Islands in between England and France, and he came
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Guernsey.
Guernsey.
And he just said oi all the time, like almost at the beginning.
That was a
of
greeting.
every
was everything.
sentence was oi. We're like, what is that?
So we've been saying it ever since.
Yeah, because it's funny. Oi.
Everything was oi. So well,
Yeah.
it's interesting how we have all these different terms, but we can get along. And I think the food, I mean, the food thing is going to be different, but that's why I wanted to do the teas, because it's a little different. But anything else that any of you can think of? Oh, goodbye. How do we say goodbye? Like, cheerio.
Yeah, we can say
Ta.
cheerio. See,
Ta.
we often say see you later or see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say see ya
Mm.
Yeah.
or catch you later. I mean, sometimes when you're saying goodbye, you say, okay, catch you later.
Yeah.
We
Cheers.
don't say catch you later. That's not something we'd say see you
It's
later.
just not
Yeah.
Mm.
not proper.
No, we wouldn't say it. That's what I'm saying. That
Yeah.
just proves the sort of the ideas of words is that we wouldn't say catch you later.
Well, that would
Yeah.
be a Canadian term that we would sometimes say is catch you later.
It's really strange how words just either are used or aren't used. It's really
Like,
funny.
Catch you later. It's I will catch up with you later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even
shortened down.
my friends from Australia, they'll say, I'll say, how are you doing? And they'll say, how are you being?
Oh,
Right?
So
oh.
just little differences that, if we haven't seen each other, they'll say, oh, it's been so long. How are you being?
See,
Right.
yeah.
And I would say,
We'd
well,
go,
how are
yeah.
you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
See, we would do who's it? How's it?
How's it?
Which is kind of
we'd just
that's
say how
Afrika-
are you?
that's
Yeah.
South Africa.
Or
It's
how
like,
are you?
well, because Afrikaans is who kan it? How's it going? And then who's it would be kind of this.
You can't use Afrikaans. It's
Yeah,
just
but I
too-
mean, but then the
You
English,
can't.
but the English would take, the English
Mm-mm.
take the English and then mix it with a little Dutch. So
But you
get
can't.
this.
You can't do a word by word translation.
It doesn't. It's
Afrikaans because it all comes out really bad.
no, I can't. No, I can't. It's
no,
no.
you can't.
It's one of the best languages to swear in, for
Oh,
sure.
no, you can't.
It's fantastic. If you want to
No.
say something to somebody, not from the
there's a
country you're in.
lot of
Yeah.
odd words.
No,
there. Okay, so I was looking at this list. Now I'm scared to say it,
Uh-oh.
but it says there's an expression in England called Oh boy, knees
Uh-oh.
up. Have you heard that
Knees
one?
up. Yeah, a
Yeah.
knees up. Yeah. It's if you're having a party.
See, doesn't that sound odd?
Well, no,
It
because
sounds blonde.
no, of course it's not. Because if you have a knees up, you're doing a lot of dancing, aren't you? You know, you're dancing.
It's like kick up your heels. It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing as kick up
dancing,
your
but
heels.
you're having a knees up.
Oh, okay. Because
Okay.
I mean,
Having
if
a knees
somebody
up.
said to me, I'm having a knees up, come over, I'd run the other way.
No, now you'd say, get jiggy with it.
No,
Okay. But
we just
yeah.
have a knees up.
That's
oh my gosh.
funny. That
So,
is
okay.
funny.
What about in this country has different sayings,
Mm.
you know, and in the South, they'll say, isn't he special? Which means, aren't you mental? Mental. You know what I mean? There's like certain terms in the South that isn't said like in California. So, do you have that kind of thing happening in England where, you know, different parts of the country are saying different things, meaning the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with England, we've got so many different dialects that have completely different words, as well as different idioms. So we have different ways of saying the same thing. I'm trying to think, like, well, I'm just trying to think what sort of examples I could give. But you know, we in East Anglia, we use a lot of words that come from the sort of Denmark and Sweden and that sort of area, because they're the ones who invaded us in the 10th century, you know.
And they dropped off their language for you.
Yeah, they did. And we still use some words that derive from the Vikings, whereas in like on the South Coast, they have a few more words that sort of come from the continent, you know. And in Scotland and Northern England, they have a lot of words that come from obviously from Scotland, you know. And the Welsh side of England have Welsh words. So, you know, we're a very diverse country, and it's more to do with the accent and how we pronounce words rather than how much we use different words. Because now the trouble is we're getting so many people who are moving around the country that we're losing a lot of accents, but we're still retaining a few words. So it's quite different from when I was a child, because when I was little, we still had loads of people who really spoke with a strong accent. Whereas now we have a lot more people coming in from all over the country and the world. So the accent is being lost. But there may well be the odd local word still in there. I mean, my children don't speak with the Norfolk accent, mainly because my daughter is a teacher, so you know she has to talk reasonably properly. And
she doesn't say myself.
No, no, she doesn't. And my son works for the government, so he has to talk properly as well. You know, so accents are going.
Wow,
sadly.
That's too bad. Because
what about Canada? Canada, is that the same? Because Canada is huge.
Yeah.
And you've got, you
You've
know,
got a lot
parts
of
where they're just like
French.
all
A lot
tundra
of
too.
French there too.
Well,
Oh.
obviously, like if you're traveling in the French provinces, there's a lot of areas are not bilingual, they're unilingual, and it's French. So the main
Oh, wow.
language is French.
Oh,
And so when you get into some of the very rural areas of Quebec, you'll find that a lot of them don't speak English at all. So it really depends where you're traveling.
Wow.
And then if you're in the East Coast, if you're in Newfoundland, the island was so isolated from the rest of the country that they've maintained it's a very strong, it sounds like an Irish accent. So if you were to go to Newfoundland, you would swear to goodness that you were in parts of Ireland. And so they have some really like, it sounds funny, some of my best friends are from Newfoundland. And so I've learned a lot of the terms. So when they say something, if you say, is it okay if I help myself? They'll say, fill your boots.
Yeah, yeah.
And fill your boots means, take as much as you like. And, you know,
that's funny. Fill your boots.
If someone is being really overly emotional, they'll say, oh, they're such a sook.
Oh, what?
Sook.
Sook.
A sook.
They're
See,
being
we
really
would just-
sooky.
We
They're
would
such a
call them
sook.
a drama queen.
Yeah, okay. And if there's a huge, like if everything kind of goes off the rails, they'll say, man, that was a gong show.
Really?
Yeah.
Chuck Barris is coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, the gong
You know,
show.
that's really funny because yeah, we just go, it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
And we'll say gong show instead of a train wreck. We'd say, wow, that was such a gong show last night.
But you would even Newfoundland, to me, I always thought it's Newfoundland, and it's not. It's Newfoundland.
No, it's Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Understand, my friend from Newfoundland hammered this into me because I used to pronounce it the same, and now I can't even mispronounce it. She said, understand, it's Newfoundland.
Oh, okay. There's a good way of putting it.
Alrighty
Well, it's
then.
like Louisiana, the different accents in Louisiana. We were in a wildlife refuge a few months ago, and this hunter guy comes out of with his truck, and we were just getting our little brochure and everything. And he looks at me and he starts going, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? And I mean, it's like this thick Cajun, and he was telling me that somebody stole his beer in a cooler in the water while he had his hunting line. And I don't know anything about hunting.
He sunk his cooler in the water
and somebody stole his cooler of beer.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it going, who leaves beer? And then he's looking at me, where you from? And I'm like, don't you look at me. I didn't take your beer, but it was really kind of, I had to wow, I suddenly didn't know what country I was in. I had one of those moments where I really didn't know where I was. And I hear Nancy, she's like, get in the car. And I'm like, no, this is interesting. No, but it was interesting. And then he zooms off.
If the reason you have a cooler is so you don't have to sink it in the water. This is why you have a cooler and you put ice in it and you put beer or whatever in it. The whole reason you have a cooler is to not have to sink your clothing or your food or whatever you're trying to hide in the water, or put it up the tree for the bears to get. Do you say cooler
in England, Glenn?
We probably call it an ice box. Cold box.
Wow, see, now that was a refrigerator before it became a refrigerator. They call it an ice chest or an ice box before it became a fancy refrigerator. They'd have them outside of the buildings.
We just call it a fridge. I must tell you about when we were in Quebec. Because I speak French, so I was really at home in Quebec. I loved it. I loved going in Quebec. It's my favorite part of that particular holiday. Apart from when we were in Prince Edward Island and when we were in Halifax and when we were in another part. But anyway, we stayed in this B&B and this couple were there, and obviously I was chatting to them in French. And I thought, well, this is amazing. So I said to her, I said, how long have you been here? So she said 400 years. And I thought, yeah, okay, you put me in my place,
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
She said, we've been here longer than you lot have. So she definitely put me in my place.
That's funny. That is
wow.
Really funny.
Wow. Good stuff. What a fun conversation, you guys. Thank you for joining us. And I shouldn't say you guys, right? That would be saying you blokes, and Lee doesn't appreciate that. But thank you both. Everyone, again, Glenn's article about this is up on blendradioandtv.com, and you can follow him at norfolk-tours.co.uk. Keep up with Lee, and her new article is up on blendradioandtv.com. It's all about trust in the food and beverage industry. It's a good one. That's one of my favorite articles, that in the bridge that you did recently too. Yeah. So a really good read for anybody in the food and beverage industry. So go to blendradioandtv.com for that, and keep up with her at thetrustarchitect.biz. Lee is on every third Thursday and Glenn on every fourth Saturday. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Nice seeing you again.
And you. And can you please remember to bleep out the words, please?
Yeah, because we want everyone to understand.
Okay. Well, we could just say
Beep.
Yeah.
Can you put a big bubble across my mouth when I say
There
them?
it is. Oh, and I'll give you some soap as well.